I recently shared a video where I took you step by step through my first year on YouTube, and the response was incredible. Now, going back through my first year on YouTube made me realize there were so many things that I wish I knew at the start of my journey. And I wrote all those things down. So in today's video, I'm going to talk you through the 10 things that every newbie YouTuber needs to know in order to survive being a beginner on this platform. By the way, this video is sponsored by Storyblocks, more on them later. Firstly, one of the biggest mistakes that newbie creators, including myself, made back then is you have this assumption that people care about you, your life, and what you're creating. I'm laughing because, oh my God, how harsh of a sentence was that? Look, tough love, okay? Nobody cares about you yet. So you know that day in the life vlog that you want to share on YouTube, or your week in the life, or whatever it might be, or like a deep dive Q&A about your life? No one cares yet, and therefore not many people are going to watch it. Now, I don't want this to sound discouraging. It's not like I'm saying, oh my God, you can't be a vlogger, you can't share a Q&A because no one's ever going to watch it. People will watch it one day, but you have to make them care first. And how you get to the point where people care about you is by creating content which is for them and not for you. Now, obviously you want to be creating content about stuff that you care about, so it should never feel like a slog, right? But in the early days especially, your content that you're creating, it should be designed for your audience to get something from. I always say to people, the best way to start your journey on YouTube is to think about your audience as inherently selfish people. Like, just think about them as super selfish people who are going on YouTube simply because they want to be entertained, they want to learn something, they want to be inspired. Like, they're going on YouTube because they're trying to get something out of the videos that they're watching. When you think about your audience that way, it becomes very clear what you need to do in the early days, which is to create content that's going to meet them at that demand. They want to go on YouTube to be entertained, create content that's going to entertain them. They want to go on YouTube to learn about the industry you're in, create content that's going to be highly educational. Like, that is why people harp on about valuable content all the time, because the quickest way to get people to care about your content is to create content that's actually for them and not for you. Now, the other way that you can approach the fact that nobody cares about your content is to lean into that and realize how beautiful that is. When you first start out on YouTube and you're only getting a few views, sorry, Mojo really wants to be on camera today. What's going on with you, my love? She has lots to say about this. When you're uploading content in the early days and you're getting 10 views, 11 views, maybe 50 views, I know that can feel incredibly disheartening, but there's some beauty in it. In that time, you are free to explore, experiment. I always say that if the first video you uploaded on YouTube was good, you started too late. It's not supposed to be good. You're supposed to learn as you do. That is the quickest, most efficient way for you to develop new skills. So those first early videos, use that as your practice time. People aren't watching your content yet. Amazing. You have freedom to make mistakes. You can always delete those videos in the future when you're established. Although if you're like me, you'll leave them on there so that people have a clear reminder of how far you can come from the first video that you ever share on your YouTube channel. Before we move on to the next one, I want to give you a really tangible example of how you can create content like a week in the life vlog and actually package it up in a way that's going to make someone who doesn't know you care about that video, because you know I love tangible advice. So let's say you were filming a week in the life, and during that week in the life you were training for your first 5K race. Instead of packaging up that video and being like, spend a week with me or a week in my life, when people don't know about your life,
who are you?
And therefore they don't care enough to actually click on that video, you package it up leading with the most interesting part of that video, which is the fact that you're training for your first 5K. So instead of saying week in the life, you say, come with me to run my first 5K. Here's everything I'm doing to run my first 5K as a non-runner. Do you see how you're focusing on the most interesting part of that video, the most valuable part of that video, and you're anchoring all of your video packaging, so your title, your thumbnail around that? That is how you get people to care about your week in the life vlog without them actually caring about you yet. The second thing I wish I knew, your view count and your subscriber count really don't matter anywhere near as much as you think they do. Now, I once went viral for saying your subscribers don't matter, and now I'm adding in view count as well. Let me explain. Your view count definitely has a role to play in your ability to earn money, for example, right? The more views you get on YouTube, the more money you earn. That's a simplified version of how you earn money on YouTube. I have a whole deep dive video on it that I'll link up here. But also, the more views you get on your content, the more money you're likely to get from brand partners, for example. The reason why I say your views don't matter as much as you think they do is because they're not the be-all and end-all of a successful, healthy YouTube account. For example, I upload vlogs every now and again, and every time I upload them, I have this mental battle with myself because I'm like, oh my God, should I share this? Because I know it's not going to get as many views as the rest of my content. I share it anyway, and do you want to know why? Because the view count for those vlogs is not the most important metric. The most important metric for those vlogs is the engagement, the quality of the comments that I get on those vlogs. I'll put some examples on the screen. These are some very high quality comments. Are you seeing these? These are comments that people are sitting down and taking their time to write, and these are not necessarily necessarily the type of comments that I get on the other content that I share that maybe gets more views. Some videos are there to help you bond with your audience deeper. Some videos are there to help you drive your engagement. Some videos are there to help you build loyal advocates, right? On the flip side, subscribers not matter, I 1000% stand by. I wish in the early days I realized how little of importance your subscriber count truly has, because I feel like I obsessed over it in the early days. I was like, I just need to get to my first 1,000. I just need to get to my first 10,000, blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, you do need to reach certain subscriber counts in order to join YouTube's partner program, and that's how you start to earn money. So I know when it comes to that conversation, they definitely do matter. However, when it comes to the other benefits that you tend to get from being a YouTuber, your subscribers aren't actually the most important thing. For starters, when brands are considering whether to work with you or not, nowadays, a lot of the time, they're looking at your engagement, they're looking at your view count more than they're looking at your subscribers. For example, a channel that has 500,000 subscribers and gets 2,000 views per video is not going to earn as much as a channel that has 50,000 subscribers but gets 10,000 views per video. That channel is going to earn more from YouTube because it's getting more views and therefore generating more ad revenue, but it's also potentially going to earn more from brand partners as well, because brands are going to see that their view count is so high. And the last thing on this before we move on to the other, because there's quite a few things that I wish that I learned, is the fact that YouTube's algorithm is so good nowadays that your audience don't even need to subscribe to you to regularly see your content. In fact, I want to ask you right now, are you subscribed to me? There is a big chance, in fact, I've got the numbers somewhere, at least 67% of you aren't subscribed to this channel, but you are watching this video and you probably watched a few of my other videos. Thank you for that, by the way. Which means that YouTube's algorithm is doing its job. It knows you like my content and therefore it's showing my videos to you when you open up the YouTube homepage, all without you having to subscribe to me. Okay, so this next thing I think all beginner YouTubers should know is one that I don't usually talk about because it's really nuanced and it's hard to explain and I don't want it to put anyone off, so just give me a second, right? There is such a thing as an oversaturated niche. I know, I feel like I've actually gone on camera before and been like, there's no such thing. I'm so sorry if I've said that. There is a such thing as oversaturated niche. The reason why I've never wanted to say that on camera before is because I worry that by saying that, it's going to put people off from starting their journey. So you might be listening to this and think, oh my God, well, maybe I shouldn't become a fashion creator because Jade just said there's such things as oversaturated niches and like fashion is definitely going to be one of them. Now, the reason why I'm now coming clean and saying there is such thing as a saturated niche is because you're still able to see success in an oversaturated niche, but your approach needs to be different. And if we all pretend that oversaturated niches don't exist, then your approach won't be different, right? And then I'll be doing you a disservice. If there is a space, a niche, a topic that a lot of people are creating great content in, of course there is more competition. The algorithm has more options when it comes to what content it's going to champion, which means you do have to approach things slightly differently. The main thing you need to do if you're going to be in an oversaturated niche is you need to figure out what your USP is, and you need to figure it out now. Maybe it's that you go deeper into that niche, which is basically niching down. So like a fashion creator focusing on like Japanese street style, or it could be that you have a unique take on the niche. So maybe you talk about health and fitness, but you don't believe in counting calories. Maybe you talk about personal finance, but through the lens of like still living a good life, but saving a lot of money. Me and McGrath is a perfect example of that. So you got to figure out what your angle is. Before we move on to the next point, I think I want to give you a bonus thing that I wish I knew when I first started out on YouTube. And that is the power of a human-made stock media library. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, a stock media library is essentially a platform that gives you access to millions of videos, photos, sound effects, special effects, templates, like audio, honestly, the list goes on. And my favorite stock media library to use is, of course, Storyblocks. Now, the reason why I say I wish I knew about this in the early days is because I used to repeatedly trip myself up when I was creating my content, because I'd be editing my videos and asking myself, my God, how do I make this more interesting? I'd just be sitting there looking at a constant video of me and being like, how do I make this more dynamic? How do I bring this to life more? How do I tell more of a story? And the truth is, one of the best ways for you to do that is to utilize stock media footage. For example, to insert videos that are representing the thing that I'm talking about to bring it to life a bit more, to use sound effects when there are graphics on the screen to capture people's attention and make sure they're watching the actual video. Honestly, the way that you can utilize stock media assets to improve your videos, the list is endless. Now, if you're going to utilize this tip, you should really be using Storyblocks. Storyblocks' entire media library is 100% human made, so basically no AI slop. Not only that, but it's refreshed daily and it's constantly growing, so you can always rest assured that there'll be fresh content that you can utilize. It's also designed to save you time. On average, Storyblocks will save a creator 3.5 hours per week because of the ways that it can be integrated into your workflow. For example, they have a plugin for Adobe Creative Cloud, which makes it super easy for you to browse their entire library inside of tools like Premiere Pro and After Effects. And they have thousands of customizable templates, which allow you to level up the production value of your content in just a few clicks. So if you want to level up your content by using stock media assets, and you want to do so on a platform that is built for creators and that supports creators, because every download on Storyblocks directly supports an artist, then head to the link in my description or storyblocks.com/jade.beason to start browsing the 100% human-made asset library available to you through Storyblocks. And they currently have a special offer where you can get 15% off of the annual plans when you join Storyblocks using my link. So that's storyblocks.com/jade.beason, or head to the link in my description. Thank you so much for Storyblocks for sponsoring this and for helping all of us create better content. The next thing you need to know as a newbie creator to survive on this platform is that no one is going to save you. Let me give you a real life example of this. There was a time, probably about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, where I desperately wanted to create better content. I was looking at the quality of my content and I was like, I need to be better at this. And I thought the way that I was going to get there was just by hiring new editors, hiring a producer, hiring social media content managers in my team. Like, I just wanted to hire people to come in and fix the problem for me. The thing is, guys, if your channel revolves around you, you are the only person who can improve the overall health of your channel. That responsibility lives and dies with you. Unless you're the sideman and you have a team of like 20, the responsibility will live and die with you. And the sooner we accept that, the better. Let me spill the tea and explain how this impacted me. A few years ago, I hired my video editor. Shout out to you because you're editing this right now. I hired my video editor, she's called Annie, and I hired her to do my short form content. Now, it might surprise you to know that when myself and Annie first worked with each other, the relationship only lasted a couple of months. And that was because I was struggling to communicate what I wanted out of my short form content. And I also wasn't making the changes that I needed to the filming in order for my short form content to look how I wanted it to look. So I was doing the classic thing of being like, cool, I'm gonna hire a new editor. I'm not gonna change my briefing process. I'm not gonna change how I'm filming. I'm not gonna change anything else about what I'm doing. I'm just gonna hire a new editor and then bam, my content's gonna look how I'm envisioning it in my head. That's not how it works. Thankfully, I had the sense to reach back out to Annie a year or so after that, because she's an incredibly talented editor, as you guys will know, and get really clear on what it is I was actually looking for. So I changed my briefing process. I dedicated way more time with like actually working closely with her, so she actually understood what I was looking for, what my style was, right? And then I invested in my kit. I experimented with new angles. I improved my scripts. Like, all of that work had to happen behind the scenes. I had to do all of that work so that the content I was giving her was better and the brief I was giving her was more clear. And the result is not just the videos you see today, but also the short form videos that I put on the screen, because I want you to see these because they're incredible. But the biggest thing I learned from that process is you can't hire someone to polish a turd, for lack of a better phrase. The content buck begins and ends with you. You are the one who decides how good your content is. Everyone else can help, but if you're not clear on what you're trying to create and you're not good at briefing and you don't improve the processes behind the scenes, your content's not going to get better. Okay, fifth thing that beginner creators need to know is that if you are copying an established creator's strategy, you will not get far. This is a common pitfall that a lot of people fall into. I think I might have even done this in the very early days. You look at creators who are more established in your space or who have similar audiences to you. You love them, you respect them, and you see them doing something like a new strategy. Maybe they've tried out a different thumbnail that has no text on it and it's just their face. Maybe they are Amelia de Modenberg and only uploads content when the content's ready. She will drop episodes randomly. There's no schedule. She'll just upload them. So you might see creators like that and be like, that must be a good strategy for me to copy. Like, maybe I'll do that. Don't. They could do that because of who they are, right? The years of work they've put in, the audience, the community they've built has allowed them to use certain strategies that simply will not work for you as a beginner. The strategies that you and I need in the early days are completely different. For example, our thumbnails do need text on them because we need every single element of the thumbnail that we can get in order to persuade someone to click on our videos because they don't know us yet. We can't just drop episodes sporadically, or at least most of us can't, because we need to build up habits with our audience so they get used to seeing our content at a certain time. We need to train YouTube's algorithm to expect to see a new video from us at a certain time. If we're not doing those things, we might not get many views. Please stop copying those really big, amazing creators. Sixth thing I wish I knew is the power of having an unfair advantage. This is such a big one, and I actually think that everyone has this, right? Some of this will be more obvious to some than to others. When you have something that is so unique, that is so specific to you, that is so interesting, that is so valuable, you need to lean into it, because that is what gets people to leapfrog others and see massive massive success very quickly. Let's take Becca Bloom for an example. I know she's not a YouTuber, she's on TikTok, but she's a great example of this. She grew like 2 million, maybe 3 million followers over the space of like 4 months because she is incredibly wealthy. Like, I'm pretty sure she's billionaire wealthy. And she's sharing an incredibly unique perspective on life. So people found her, people spoke about her, people followed her because her content was incredibly unique. That was her unique advantage, right? My unique advantage is the fact that I have a degree in marketing. I worked 8 years in marketing and I experienced the creator economy from every single angle. As an influencer, as a brand owner who hired influencers, someone who worked at an agency on behalf of huge brands, someone worked in-house as a brand. Like, I literally experienced it from every single angle. That was my unfair advantage that I lent into heavily in the early days of me creating content. That's what helped me gain credibility and therefore experience a decent amount of success. Another great example is, I believe her name is Chidi Ashley. I'll put her channel on the screen. She built like a hotel in Bali. It was either a home or a hotel in Bali. That is an incredibly unique story to tell. Some would say an unfair advantage because who else can tell that story? Who else can document that process? Figure out what yours is. I'm willing to bet it's something that you don't think is even that interesting, but other people would love. The next thing you need to know as a beginner creator is the value triangle. Now, I've spoken about this a few times and I stand by this. Like, this, in my opinion, has stood the test of time and is just as relevant on YouTube than it ever has been. This is the idea that there are 3 core types of value that every YouTuber can focus on. Now, these value points are personality, so really leaning into your quirks, right? And really like not dialing them up because you want to be authentic, but just not holding them back. Editing style, so these are people who have like incredible edits on their content where you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And value, so this is when people are teaching something, where people are really dialing up like the entertainment value or the inspirational value, whatever that might be. The idea here is that as a beginner creator, you only need to be focusing on 2 out of the 3 of those things. So this is one of those lovely strategies where I'm actually telling you to do less than more. You want to pick 2 of those things and you want to focus on them and you want to go hard on them, right? So for me, when I first started out, I focused heavily on my personality. So I was like, you know what? I know I'm teaching stuff, but I'm not going to make this dry. I'm going to make sure my personality comes across. I'm going to anchor every strategy back to a personal story. Like, I'm going to really focus on that, right? The other value point for me was value itself. So I was like, my content is educational, so that value thing is going to be a huge tick. What I didn't focus on was my editing style because I was editing the videos myself. And look, I don't have a knack for it. I could get them done. If you want to look at my first few videos, you can see what I was doing. I could do them. Were they great? Do you know what? They were all right. I'm not going to be mean to myself, but they were nowhere near the level that they are right now, thanks to, again, shout out my video editor. Now, I love this tip because I think it simplifies YouTube in some way. I think a lot of the time we believe that we have to be nailing all 3 from day one. And if you think that, and if you attempt that, you're probably going to overwhelm yourself because you're new to this. It's incredibly difficult for you to nail all 3 of those things from day one. So instead, pick the 2 that you are most excited about nailing and just focus on that. Of course, further down the line, you can add the 3rd one in. Okay, this next thing that I wish I knew in the early days, like, oh God, I wish someone told me this, so I'm excited to tell you guys this. You need to think beyond one video at a time. The creators who succeed today are the ones who build story arcs across multiple different videos. They link between multiple different videos. They basically are building a bit of a world that convinces their audience to stick around and watch more than just the one video they're consuming right now. So for example, what I should be doing right now is hinting at a video that I'm going to be sharing in a couple of weeks. I'm not doing that because I'm not organized enough to have prepared that in advance, but I should be doing that. And if you're someone who's going to be sharing a lot of vlogs, this is especially important for you. So a great example of when vloggers do this, often quite naturally, to be honest, is when they know there's going to be something big happening in the future. For example, they're going to buy and renovate a house. That's absolute gold for vloggers, right? When they know that's coming up, they will hint to that for months until it happens. They might be sharing a vlog about their journey to running their first 5K, but best believe in that vlog, they're going to be like, by the way, guys, I think we're ready to start house hunting. So excited, right? Those little nuggets that they're peppering in each video are actually clues of what's to come. And what that does from a viewer's perspective is it gives them a reason to check back in on that creator and to continue watching. Building that story arc that spans multiple pieces of content, that is how you build an incredibly powerful YouTube presence in this day and age. Next thing you need to know as a beginner creator, almost there guys, is that you are going to want to quit, but that doesn't mean that you should. People do underestimate the time and effort it takes to build a YouTube channel, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Because that level of delusion where you're like, oh, it's not gonna be hard, I'm just gonna start filming myself, it'll take 2 seconds. We all need that. That's what helps us do these ridiculous things, start these businesses, start these social media empires. That level of delulu has been present for all of your favorite creators in the early days. Don't lose that delulu. What I do want you to have though is a little sprinkle of realism realism in there. And that realism is just the awareness that at some point in your journey, you're going to want to quit. It will likely be a period where you feel like you're spending a lot of hours and a lot of effort on your content and you're not quite seeing the rewards yet. I remember in my early days spending a lot of time, like all weekend, 4 hours every single morning, creating content for my channel, uploading it, and knowing that the only person who watched that was my mum, my sister, and potentially my dog, right? There were several times where I'd think, why am I doing this? I would sit down, I'd set up my camera and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm about to spend another 8 hours working on a video that no one's going to see. Like maybe I should just turn the camera off and go to bed. Like you are going to have moments where you think that, right? The thing about YouTube, and I think the beautiful thing about YouTube, is that it's a high effort, high reward platform. Yes, it takes more effort to create long form content specifically on this platform, but the reward you get from that is a far deeper connection with your community, is more money from the brands that you're working with. It's a platform that actually splits the income that they make with you almost 50-50, not quite, but almost 50-50. It's a skill set that you will use for years and years to come, and that will benefit you in whatever you end up doing with your life, whether you stay a creator or not. These are all incredible things that you will get off the back of all the effort that you're putting in, but there will come a time where it won't feel worth it. Being aware of this is going to help you manage that feeling so much better, because at the end of the day, if you expect to love every second of this journey, you are going to think it's a huge deal when you have the moment where you don't. And you're going to make that feeling mean more than it does. You're going to be like, oh my God, maybe this isn't actually for me. Maybe this isn't the right career. Maybe I should quit because right now I'm not enjoying it. That's not what that means. It just means you're going through the natural phase that we all have where we're like, what are we doing? Push through it. Let me be a case study of what can happen when you push through it. Because YouTube completely changed my life, very much for the better. Sorry, Mojo's just been licking my hand and I'm aware that it's by the mic. So I really hope that didn't pick that up because that would sound awful. You've just been slobbering in everyone's ears. Last but certainly not least, what you need to know as a beginner creator is that you need to learn to ride the waves. This is kind of similar to what I just spoke about, but different in some ways. There is a seasonality to everyone's creator career. For example, right now I'm filming this in August. This isn't a good time for me. I mean, it's a good time for me now because I've learned to ride the waves. But in the early days, I would be struggling around this time of year. I would be panicking. I'd be like, oh my God, my career's over. My views are down. Sponsorships are down. You will have slow months for your niche and your audience. All this stuff would get in my head because August is a slow month. In fact, people normally take all of August off. I'm desperate to do that next year. It's a slow month for my niche. Sometimes these will be seasonal, and after a few years, you'll start to notice the patterns, which will help you ride the wave, which is amazing. Other times, they will be random, and they will really throw you, and you'll feel like you're flopping. I'm here to tell you that everyone has that moment. Your journey will not be like this, it will be like this. Creators who succeed are the ones who learn how to ride that wave, make their way through that dip, evolve if they need to, and then keep pushing. That is everything you need to know to survive being a beginner creator. Don't forget that if you want to get access to a human-made stock media library that is built for creators and an essential part of my workflow, you can head to storyblocks.com/jade.beason. They're also offering 15% off of any annual plan, but you can only get this when you access Storyblocks through my link in my description. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I cannot wait to see you in my next video.